All right, so Gary, are you checking? Thank you. So as Facebook likes to do, we have some surprises this morning. So Gary is confirming that you can see me, and in 2 seconds you should be able to find me. All right, it should be visible to you now, and we're still waiting for someone to join us. And obviously I'm gonna have to watch a YouTube video to figure out the changes that they've made because I can't find the things I'm used to. But this looks good so far. And so we wait for someone to join us. That's very interesting if no one can join us. If the people in the audience would attempt to join, that would be great, just so that we can see that this works, because
I tried that last week when Cindy was stuck.
yeah, we saw you, I saw you on it, right?
As long as you're not on the Wi-Fi here, otherwise.
Yeah, don't be on the Wi-Fi here, otherwise that'll mess us up.
I tried to do it last week and it wouldn't let me because my Microsoft had it blocked.
Yeah, I'm seeing you.
Oh, you,
I'm
I'm on?
disconnected from the Wi-Fi and I'm seeing you over the,
okay, so you, all right, okay, now it shows me that one person's viewing. Okay, good. All right, so so it was easy for you to, the usual way for you to get a hold of it?
yeah, when it's my Facebook.
Your Facebook page, and you clicked on this? Okay, fine. All right, so people out there in video land, I'm knowing that you can join and write a comment, letting me know you can see and hear me. Otherwise, only Jon has joined us. Oh, changes. I love technology, and technology loves me. Okay, it also seems like there's quite a delay from what I see. Now, no one's watching.
That never happened before.
No, they changed it this morning. Everything's changed different this morning.
Facebook changed stuff.
Facebook changed its layout, so that's why I'm not certain how things are working. Okay, so I'm just going to go on mine. Hold on, people. Whoever is watching.
Yeah, I'm texting David to see if he's watching.
Yeah, is he having trouble getting on or? Oh, wait, let me get. Okay, I don't have anyone on. Let me look. See, so Princeton.
He says nothing is coming up. Yeah, he said nothing is coming up, so.
But you got on. I can't get on
Yeah.
either.
It was last week. My sunglasses on.
Yeah, Susan just texted me, she's not seeing it.
Okay, oh gosh, I think what people have to do is go to spell the words out, Center for Spiritual Living Princeton.
Well, I think Susan is on that. So-
No, if she was on CSL Princeton,
Oh.
let me see. Oh, there I am. That's how you find it. Oh, how do we tell people? Oh, I'm so sorry, people out there in television land.
So how did you get on?
You have to search for the words Center for Spiritual Living Princeton instead of CSL Princeton. Maybe maybe that was what was wrong. Let me see, let me go back.
Yeah, but Karen, this is a different site, the Center for Spiritual Living.
Princeton.
Yes.
Well, do you see me on it?
You may be on
Because
sorry.
that's the one that which has been ministered in the past. Princeton Center Live, yes, it's on.
Yeah, it says Center for Spiritual Living Princeton is live now.
Yeah.
So that's what you're on, clearly.
So we need to make a post on CSL Princeton that we are to be seen on the other one.
Oh, okay, good. Let me post on this. All right, good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's really a delay. But how could they mix those two?
No, they just redid Facebook
I know.
this morning.
I was this morning for my commission on it, and I had also some glitches. Raul Gonzalez is on now.
One uses Wi-Fi and virtual.
All right. Oh, Raul, okay. He found us. Excellent. Okay, good. So if you would like a special spiritual mind treatment done by me, let me know, message me, or go to our website, cslprinceton.org, and there's a little prayer request button there. So, all right. Now, so I posted on CSL Princeton's comment to go to this, so more people should find us now. So sorry, people who are joining us later. All right. Okay, so I'm off. Other people are off. Right, if you're not here, we have one person who was able to find us. Okay, great. Excellent. All right, but everybody else is coming in person. All right, so, oh, and Stephanie Ann found us too. Excellent. Okay, so, hi. So, Stephanie Ann, if you'd like a special treatment, let me know, and I will do that for you too. And I am knowing that other people will find their way here. And after we get our office moved, I will try to figure out what happened here. Oh, and Susan finally got here too. Okay, great. And Gary, you're here. Okay, we got you. All right, so we will now begin. We're only, I can't even add or subtract. Okay, all right, enough.
It's okay.
See, everything's moving on me, folks. Everything's moving on me. So, this word is being spoken for each one. And if you would like to include someone, just think of their name now and know that this word also includes them. One mind, the mind of God, is unchanging. That mind of God only knows itself. I am that I am. And it knows itself with such crystal clarity so that what it knows is created in detail, in phenomenally intelligent detail. This crystal clarity of the infinite mind is always at work, and it is at work right now in, through, and as each one. And so that clarity of the infinite mind is present right within each one. And each one is now tuning in to that crystal clarity, that divine knowing, I am that I am. And this is unchanging. But from this one source, unchanging source, everything emerges. Beauty, love, goodness is expressed in infinite expression, infinite variety. And so each one is a unique expression of that which is unchanging. And the essence of each one is unchanging. And so each one is now rooted in truth, rooted in that divine self, that unchanging, infinite, eternal self, that great I am that is each one. And each one is knowing its qualities, life, perfect life, perfect, whole, and complete life. It's love, caring, nurturing, embracing, including, blessing, providing in all ways for this life. That activity, that loving activity, never changes, but it's always using its intelligence, the light of this essence, so that what is being expressed in every moment is the highest and greatest possible expression for each one. Expressing all in harmony with everything else. This essence, the principle of expression, is one of harmony. And so that which is knowing itself with this crystal clarity has the power to create itself. And so this creative power, the existence, the presence of it, is unchanging. It is. And each one is now aware of it and using this creative power to create an expression of life that is beauty, that is peace, that is love, that is joy, all in harmony. And so each one is now filled with the essence. Each one is now fully aware of being filled with this essence of life, love, light, power, peace, beauty, harmony, joy, order. And in this centeredness upon the center, everything else revolves harmoniously in right relationship with everything else. So wherever there is confusion, distraction, wherever there is change going on and dislike of the change, any feeling of overwhelm or distractedness or disgruntledness, it's all vanished and gone as the light of harmony, wisdom, and love is clarifying that everything is expressing harmoniously and peacefully. There is, in this expression of life, that divine creator creating time and space. And so time and space are created in order to see the activity of harmony and order at work, in order to experience that magnificent synchronous intelligence at work, expressing as perfect right order and divine right action. Each one has faith in the truth of being and allows everything in each one's world to reorganize and organize itself according to the inherent perfect pattern within. And so there is the right time, the right place, the right person, the right activity, the right expression, the right decision for the highest and greatest good of each one and the highest greatest good of all to be experienced. And so the divine schedule is knowing all, is scheduling everything that good that is within one's consciousness, every good idea that one has accepted in consciousness. There is a divine scheduling of this good to be evolved and revealed in perfect right order and in divine right action. The full backing and support of the universe is present to ensure that each one, each blessed creation of the divine, each one here is always in the right place at the right time with the right people, saying the right thing, doing the right thing for the highest and the greatest good of all to be experienced. Experienced by the one who is choosing to listen to that inner guidance, to follow its wisdom, to follow its pointing of the way, to allow each moment to be filled with gratitude and with love, and to allow the blessings, the unmerited favors, the grace of the loving presence to descend upon each one and manifest in each one's world. And so with all of this, life is easy. Everything works, including Facebook, all technology, but all of the movement of the planets, of the solar systems, of the stars, of the meteors, as well as of the electrons and the protons and the photons, the movement of all, as well as each one here on this planet, each and every muscle, each and every finger, each and all, every movement is divinely orchestrated so that everything is moving in harmony with everything else, and life is easy, grace-filled. The path ahead is clear. Each one is seeing as he or she takes the steps that he or she is guided to take. Each one sees the path revealed harmoniously and peacefully before them, so that it becomes easier and easier to walk in the changing environment around him or herself, because each one is centered right at that very core in that divine self, knowing that that which is the I am that I am, and each one is centered in this, blessed by it, and fully aware of the presence. Each one is divinely as well as humanly and personally aligned to that true north, the I am that I am. And in this perfect alignment, everything in each one's world settles into harmonious organization and harmonious and orderly arrangement in each one's world. The path always clear, more than enough room to breathe, more than enough space in the mind to think with clarity, more than enough room in the heart to love and to enjoy and to be grateful and to be in awe and wonder and to actually experience blessings, grace, and wherever needed, oh my gosh, the forgiveness that brings each one peace of mind, peace of soul, peace of emotions, peace of body, and peace of the world and every relationship in it. This is the truth for each one, and this is the good. I am grateful that this is so, and now I release this word to that blessed law that knows how to make it so, and actually has been trying to make this so, and now has each one's wholehearted willingness and acceptance and allowing of it. And so all systems are go. The demonstration is now, and each one receives the good that he or she has desires of in the heart, and it is done. And so it is.
Yes, so it is.
There we go. And that is the way it is. Okay, glad to see you all here. Let's keep moving forward. Reverend Rich, take us away. And yes, that's what we are doing, because all the blessings are already around us. we need to receive them. We need to accept them. We need to receive good. We need to open up our palms. So we let go of the old, right? Let it go, so that there's room for new good, right? I speak to myself. And so let's open to the good that we desire to experience this day, and we know that it is here. We are open to receive, and so it is.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome. Welcome. We are a loving community. We are incredibly inclusive. And we welcome everyone here, whether they're here online or they're here in person in our studio, our podcast studio here. We have to get a podcast in this thing going, right? Everybody else is. 2 million a day. So, I've been watching a TV show on, I think it's on Hulu and maybe on FX. It's called Reservation Dogs, and it's an amazing show, and it's about 4 or 5 Native kids growing up on a reservation in Oklahoma. And what's unique about the show, I think, is that everyone involved in it is a Native person. The writers, the producers, the showrunner, all the kids, mostly everyone in the cast. And there's a lot of people that you see that you've seen in other shows and other places. And it's just, I sit there and I watch it and I'm just charmed by it. And it gets mystical, and it gets very earthy, and they're teenagers and they're struggling with racism, but they're not letting it beat them. And they're struggling towards adulthood. But one of the scenes that happened to the show I watched yesterday, I'm kind of binging it. There was an elder woman talking to one of the teenage girls, and the teenager was struggling with identity. And the elder said, she said, in her own experience, she said, I don't feel any different now than when I was a little girl. And I think most people I've spoken to have had that experience where, you when a kid becomes 13, you say, how does it feel to be a teenager? And they're like, I don't know, I feel like I did yesterday. And people have asked me, like, now I'm of an age, right? I've been around for a while, many summers. And I don't feel that much different than I did when I was 4 years old. I can remember an episode that happened when I was 4, and that experiencer when I was 4 is the same experiencer that is here now. So to me, that's evidence that there is so much more going on in the world, in our experience, than we can ever imagine. That thing, no matter, I can get there. Michael Singer calls it the seat of consciousness, where you just sort of lay back into it. And when Reverend Karen talks about our inner guidance, like, that's where it comes from. It's always there. And all we have to do is to relax into it and accept grace. I heard another guy on a podcast talking about how difficult it is for humans to accept the idea of grace. That we think we have to all work for it, and we have to do good works, and that's all great. But we're going to get the good stuff no matter what we do. So here we are. We're having our We're having our Sunday celebration. And every week when I come here, I sit, and I usually close my eyes when Reverend Karen is talking, because I want to try to experience what she's talking about. And so this is our invitation every week to experience that distant place that we can bring right here. So welcome. I woke up this morning with my mind state of spirit, yeah. I woke up this morning with my mind state of spirit. I woke up this morning with my mind state of spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I'm brushing my teeth with my mind state of spirit, yeah. Brushing my teeth with my mind state of spirit. With my mind state of spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I'm walking my dog with my mind state of spirit. Walking my dog with my mind state of spirit. My dog with my mind state of spirit. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Ooh. Mr. Practitioner, lay some words on us.
Okay, I'm
And
going to
some
lay
paper.
some words on you.
And some paper.
And some paper. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Jon Heron, and I am a licensed practitioner here at the Center for Spiritual Living, Princeton. And I'm looking out at a room full of practitioners,
Yeah.
some licensed and some not.
Right, we're all practicing.
We're all practicing, or we wouldn't be here. So there's something I've been thinking about that I thought I would talk about this morning. Quantum physicists, some of the things they say suggest that we all live on multiple layers of reality. You could say layers of consciousness, right? Which is what we say in Science of Mind. And another thing we say in Science of Mind is what you focus on expands. So what layer of consciousness are we experiencing when we walk around in the world? We're experiencing the layer of consciousness that we focus on, right? And I mean, one of the things that always brings this up for me is, look at what the world around us wants us to focus on. It wants us to focus on, we're all in danger, so we have to buy guns. We're all in danger, and God forbid anybody should take our guns away. We need this medication. We need to focus on this that's happening in the world, and if we don't respond to it in this way, then we're wrong. Right? That's the world keeps yelling at us to do this. And if we focus on that, guess what we get? We get more of that. Because what we focus on expands. So I've been looking for stuff, knowing that I was going to be practitioner and standing up here. What would be of value for me, for all of us, for those of us online? And by the way, I put something in the comments so that you can participate, those of you online, in what we're going to do. I found this thing that Ernest Holmes wrote. It's in Living the Science of Mind. And he's talking about starting a chain reaction in consciousness. He says, if you want to start a chain reaction that will help those around you, realizing that it must begin at the center of your own being, Suppose you take time daily to say these words to yourself very simply and sincerely, and perhaps repeat the process a number of times each day. If we make a practice of this, we shall find something new and wonderful beginning to happen, for we shall be silently broadcasting our own conviction. What you focus on expands, right? And silently starting a chain reaction which must finally accomplish its purpose because it is dealing with the law of good. We must be careful to avoid thinking that we are unimportant in the scheme of things. We are the most important persons living as far as we're concerned. And I always think, because there are polls from many different ways. There are many different ways of looking at this teaching, and some people say we should think of it this way, and some people say we should think of it that way. What we focus on expands. And I choose to believe it's what I learned from Reverend Karen. It's what I've learned by reading these teachings, that we can change the world by what we focus on, because it expands. And the more people who do this, the more it will expand. And the place to start is in our own lives. So here's the little meditation that Ernest Holmes wrote, and I'd love us, for all of us who are physically here, and if you're at home, it is in the comments. It starts with, I know that nothing but good. You'll see a comment from me. So let's do this together. And let's start from that place of not just the words, but what is each of us focusing on? So let's go into ourselves, each one of us, and choose to focus on love, or peace, or joy, whatever's present for you at the highest level of who you are. And really connect with that. I like the idea that love is fully present. And I choose to make it more than just an idea. I choose to make it an experience, that love fills the world. So what do you choose to focus on? And together, let's all say these words together. I know that nothing but good can go from me, and nothing but good can return. It is my inward desire that everything I touch, every person I think of, shall be blessed and helped. It is my affirmative prayer, which I completely accept, that even as I pass people in the street, some silent influence of good shall reach from me to them. So imagine going forward in the week. We're at the beginning of a new month. Soon we'll be at the beginning of a new year. Imagine that you made that choice to not just repeat words like this, but to really hold that in your heart and your mind, that everywhere you go, as you pass people in the street, some silent influence of good reaches from you to them. And imagine a world where the people you're walking around with are holding the same thing. Imagine how this truth, which we know in our teaching, is fully present right here, right now. Imagine that you are participating in demonstrating that in the world and helping the world demonstrate it to you. And so from that place, I'll do a treatment. So this word is for the world, and for CSL Princeton and all who are participating this morning, all who wish they were participating, all who have participated in the past or in the future. I know that love is present right here, right now, everywhere, always, at all times. It is what is creating the world as a living thing, always. And since that's true, then that means that every person that is participating, every aspect of this participation is an expression of love. It is the only thing that is expressing perfect, whole, and complete. And since that's so, I declare that this is a world of love. I declare that the whole world is now conscious of the presence of love, and that each one walking around in the world is knowing the presence of love and sharing the presence of love with themselves, with the world around them, and with the world at large. And since that's so, each one is now experiencing a world of love, each in his or her own way. And so this now is a world of love. And each one is choosing to focus on love. And that love is now expanding. That love is now expressed in the lives of each one and in everything in, around, and through each one. And since that's the truth, I am so grateful to know this truth. I release it to the law. I know it is already so, and so it is.
Thank you, John. When I was a boys' week, on Sunday we would go to church, pay attention to the priest. He would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. Maybe the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. When I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses set the sea too, and Jesus made the water wine. And I remember feeling sad that miracles don't happen soon. Now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine, water is not so small. A better magic trick that anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but find that there isn't one. Holy water was red at best. It barely wet my fingertips. But now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in the sea. It used to be a world half there, having second grade hand-me-down. But I walk it with the reverend there, 'cause everything is holy now. 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 Everything is holy. Read a questioning child's face and see the testament. Will that be very hard to say? See another new morning come. See it's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, I saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush, singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when the church let out, how things have changed since then. 'Cause everything is holy now. 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 Everything is holy. Everything is holy. And now, presenting here on the stage, on the main stage, Reverend Dr. Karen.
Such as she is. So haven't they done a great job, John and Reverend Rich? That's it. That's what you get this morning. And then there's me. So I'm discombobulated, as many of you know. So out there in the outer world, I don't know, we are letting our office go for a couple of reasons. I think the main one is we don't use it. So we're letting it go, and we made the decision to let all the stuff that's in it go, and that goes right up into my false beliefs. So I am so blessed by people who don't have the false beliefs that I have, supporting me and our community in letting go of all of these things. And so many of them are finding wonderful, wonderful homes. So it's been a wonderful experience. But it ends today. And I've been having nightmares all week. And as I listen to John and Reverend Rich, and my own spiritual mind treatment that I started with, it really is letting go of those false beliefs. And so we're talking today about Kingdom 3 of the kingdoms of consciousness. And so we've been talking the past couple of weeks about different states of consciousness, different ways of perceiving our world. What we call that first kingdom, according to Reverend Lloyd Strom and Marcia Sutton, that first kingdom is what we are born into this world. We are completely dependent on our family, on the world, people, humans supporting us, showing us the way, and we're given completely all their beliefs, because we've got to have something within us that's creating our world. And so in this kingdom, we are the recipient of tremendous blessings and support. However, we're also a victim in that we have no ability to choose. We just receive and we accept, and we are blessed when it's kind and gentle people. And some of us have had not so kind and gentle people in our early childhood. I actually was speaking with someone last night who was raised in a particular religion where they believed in physical punishment in the classroom. And he actually, in going through his mother's stuff, after his mother passed on, he found a little note that his mother had written, his teacher, and it said, "Do whatever you have to do to keep Rob in line." And so, yeah, he got, the teacher got permission to whack him or whatever it is he needed to do to be put in line. And so the human race is doing the best that it can, and we certainly are evolving as a human race as to what that definition is. But brought into this world, we're a victim of it until we learn we do have a choice. And it takes us a while. We need to be mature enough physically to, figure out the difference between me versus them. And then we need to realize, wait a minute, I have a way. I can choose, I can think, I can make a decision. I can say, right, the terrible twos are terrible to the group that's raising us, right? But it is critical for us to be able to say, no, no, no. And when we learn that, boy, we go to town, right? But it's the beginning of entering into Kingdom 2 consciousness, where everything is done for us or by us, by our decisions. So we grow up in a little bit from everybody help me, I need all your help, and into a consciousness of I can do it, and which includes, and don't tell me what to do. So that we've got that little bit of rebellion in us in our Kingdom 2, in that next phase of decision making, and we want to realize it's necessary. We've got to develop that ability to choose, to say no, to discriminate. And I find myself continually in moving in from Kingdom 1 to Kingdom 2 in fine-tuning what I will tolerate. Like my definition of good, it used to be, please no screaming around me. That was my first definition of good. And I came into this teaching and I began choosing harmony, harmony, harmony. And I noticed that all the screaming around me started going away from me, or I would be guided not to be there. And that was my conscious choice for harmony, but it was actually working out in the world. So if there was screaming going on, I wouldn't be there. I was doing summer theater out in Michigan, and apparently the owner of the theater, director, many decades, was a screamer, apparently. But I never saw him scream. I never heard him scream. But I would be cleaning the toilets. I mean, that spent most of my summer cleaning toilets. That seemed to be my assignment. I would be doing that, and I'd finish my job, and I would walk into the room, and there's this whole group of people would be sitting there stunned, going, oh my God, you missed it. And I'm like, what did I miss? And they're like, oh my God, he just had a rant like you wouldn't believe. And I'm like, really? Yes. That's what I would say to myself, because I was saying harmony, harmony, harmony. And I just noticed, sure, I had to clean toilets, but I wasn't there looking like they're looking. So I was like, wow, this is working. My conscious choices for greater good, for any quality of the divine, works. And so we really own Kingdom 2, consciousness. The world is, what do we say? A desirable place to be, because I can choose. Back when we're victim, we believe the world is a dangerous place to be, right? They might do it to us, right? Or, ooh, that flu, gotta be careful, the world is a dangerous place. But when we start exercising that, our right of decision, then the world becomes more and more desirable. And so I've noticed in myself, I'm fine-tuning. So good used to be just no yelling around me. But now, wait a minute. I want a higher experience of harmony. How about, and for those of you who've been around for a number of years, you know, a couple of years ago, I claimed for the entire year, life is easy. Life is easy. Easy? Easy? How many of us think, believe, and experience life is hard? Life is struggle. Or this is going to be hard. Or this is going to be a struggle, right? And so life is easy. It's a whole new choice for me, but I'm, you know, with all the changes that we have going on with our office, I'm falling back into my own victim belief, which is this is going to be hard, getting rid of all this stuff. Oh my gosh. But the divine is making it much, much, much easier for me than I believe it would be. And I'm doing spiritual work. So in Kingdom 2, what we start experiencing is that divine guidance voice within us, but we still feel and experience those remnants of false beliefs that we were surrounded by, that we were a victim of in Kingdom 1. In other words, yay, I know some truth, but we're carrying with us in Kingdom 2, with all these decisions, these other voices in our heads. Lloyd and Marcia call it other passengers, or these false beliefs that are giving us conflicting thoughts, conflicting instructions. So that divine guidance is saying, relax. And all the voices in our head are going, are you kidding? The deadline, and this, and look at your body, and look at this, and and what's the landlord going to say, and what's this one going to say? All those other voices are coming from beliefs that we have that we are still a victim in some way, right? That we're still a victim in some way. What's the landlord going to say? I'm a victim of what I believe the landlord might say. It's not the same as being a victim of screaming people all around, but you can see how it's like a continuation of that idea. Worrying about what other people are doing. Well, they might be screaming and yelling. Well, now what might they say? In a nice, gentle voice, what might they say? But it's still being a victim of what they might say. So that fine tuning, when we are realizing that we have choice, we keep having to make choices, and then eventually we begin to move into Kingdom 3, which is living in a state of grace, where all those other voices that suggest we're a victim are gone. And we have moments like that. And what we want to do is build on those moments and make it, a few hours, make it a couple of days, make it months, and live in a state of grace. A state of grace is a state of listening to the wisdom within in faith and in knowledge. So we're not talking about that childhood state of grace, because the child has no knowledge. The child is just being cared for, ideally in a loving, gentle, kind, sweet way, healthy way, but no choice. And so we need our Kingdom 2 to start developing that choice, and we gain knowledge of how life is in those choices. And that's important. And then as we do that, we grow into faith. What they say is, well, let me put it this way. They say knowledge is, which is what we are learning when we have choices, without faith that the world is a friendly place, that there is a God, that there is a power for good in the universe, and I can use it. Knowledge without faith is dead and unrewarding, right? When our soul isn't connected to and in living in oneness with this world around us, we feel dead inside, unrewarding. I mean, we set goals, we have lots of success, we can experience more and more money coming in. Years ago, when I was an atheist, folks, I was working in a bank, and I got into this teaching, and I started treating, and I was getting more and more money, more and more money, more and more money, and I'm looking at my account, and it just seemed like it was growing and growing. But my divine guidance was saying, leave, quit, leave it all. And it took me several years in this teaching and with that divine guidance before I could leave, because I had no faith. I had no faith. And I was empty inside in that job. And I remember having this moment where I asked myself the question, how much money do you need to have in the bank for you to feel secure? And I knew the answer was, there's no amount. That it could be $1 million, $5 million, it didn't matter. It would not make me feel secure. And with that realization about where I'm at, I was then able to quit my job. And I did. And I quit my job to the world to become an actress. But I really quit the job spiritually to walk in faith, trusting that Spirit is my source and that Spirit will support me. In other words, I left that job in order to develop security in the cause of my existence, in my choices. And I did. I had a ball. Spent all the money I had saved up as a banker. And at the end of it, I felt more secure than I did, more financially secure than I did when I had all the money. So see, it was an inner shifting done by a decision to walk in faith and trust. And so that was a marvelous experience for me, because I had to, give up what I thought was my support, which was the job, and walk in faith. And 3-5 years, whatever, every day I had to walk in faith. Every day was a test. But I trusted and I walked, and I trusted and I walked, and I became free. I became secure. And I was no longer, I knew that the situation with me in all my employment up to this moment was, no matter what job I was in, I had to please. And so I always had an inner miserable experience. I would do whatever the employer told me to do. And I was considered a really good employee. But see, that came out of my insecurity, not in that I was so great or skillful. I made sure that when they replaced me, they'd have to hire 3 or 4 people to replace me. Well, this is a miserable experience, because you're working really hard if you're doing the job of 3 or 4 people, right? Remember, life is easy, life is a struggle. So back then, my security required me to suffer in my employment. And I think some of you know what I'm talking about here, right? Right? And that whole world believes that. But we know, who have done that, right? Life is dead and unrewarding when we do that. We sacrifice our souls. And when I finally left the bank, I remember talking to the vice president. He's like, why are you leaving? You're making all this money and we're promoting you, blah, blah, blah. Why are you leaving? And I said, listen, every additional day here is taking years off of my life. I have to go. And he sat back and he said, I've always wanted to be on a boat, fishing. But my wife, my children, they needed an education, they need their house, they need all this stuff. And so he, without my asking, He told me why he was staying in that job, dead, unrewarding, to the soul, when he has this desire to fish on a boat. But there it was me going, I'm going to be an actress. And, I was, mediocre actress. Didn't make it much money off of it, certainly not enough to live on. But the real kernel was Kingdom 3 state of mind. I have faith in God as my source. That which brought me this far shall bring me the rest of the way. In this kingdom, we live in grace, and we feel supported by grace, and we see the world as a friendly place to be. And when I completed this phase of being secure, I gained something of value, which was everything to me. I knew that I would never again be abused in the workplace. I knew that I would not tolerate disrespect or hurtful behavior. I knew I could now go back into the workplace, take any job that was given to me, and I would have the freedom to walk out if I were not treated with respect, value, appreciation, and enjoyed. And that's when I began treating for that kind of expression, where I am respected, appreciated, valued, and enjoyed. Spells out rave. I began treating, I am now working, using my highest talents and abilities, and I am respected, appreciated, valued, and enjoyed. I did this treatment every day for 6 months. And I went into a position in a clothing chain store, and the headhunter who was doing the behind-the-scenes talking said, and the industry said, oh, that company, they're mad dogs. I'm like, mad dogs? What does that mean? Oh my God, lots of screaming. And I'm like, what does that mean? Because we know harmony, screaming, mad dogs. What are you talking about? And why am I being guided to interview with them? And they put me through 4 interviews. And the very last interview, the headhunter said, the EVP, the executive vice president, he's going to look you right in the eye. And he's going to ask you, do you want this job? And if you are uncertain, you are not going to get the job. And I said, I'm uncertain. And I was. And this was why. Because I heard about the screaming and yelling and the mad dogs, whatever. And I had, been not honest with them in my interviews. So in the last interview with the executive vice president, he's sitting there and he looks at me and he says, what would you do if people started screaming and yelling at you? And I looked him right in the eye and I said, what would you do if I scream and yell back? And he smiles and he hires me. And I was there for 5 years and no one ever screamed or yelled anywhere near me. I don't know what they were talking about. I really don't understand what they were talking about. Maybe their screaming was, my office was next to that executive vice president, and every once in a while he would go yell in his office, Karen, what's the store number for blah, blah, blah. And I yelled it back once, but every time after that, because he would do it several times a day, he would ask me a question yelling through the wall, and I would get up from my desk and go to his door and give him the answer, and then walk back in the room. That was just my style. But was that what they were talking about? I don't know. So see, Kingdom 3 is where we trust that divine guidance in us more than the voices in our head. And so while we're moving from the empowerment of our decisions, we are growing in our ability to discern which of the voices in our heads to follow. All the victim scary voices, there's a million of them, but there's only one voice that's saying, take this job. And I until that last moment, I did not know whether I would take the job or not. I really didn't, because I wasn't telling them the truth. And the truth was, I'm not putting up with your whatever it is. And that seemed to satisfy him. And years later, I figured out that what they thought was, for those of you who see me, I tend to be a little professional, a little, I don't know what you call it, but not a screaming, yelling kind of down and dirty kind of thing. I mean, if I was working on a construction site, I would probably still shine my boots or I don't know, wear makeup. I don't know what that means. But anyway, they kind of thought I looked a little too put together to work there. But anyway, so this Kingdom 3, when we have these experiences, we begin in having an experience of grace. We're walking in faith. And because of what we learn from it, we want it more and more. And so, as I said a couple of weeks ago, we tend to be a blob of consciousness in all the kingdoms at the same time. But there's one kingdom that, most of our body is sitting in, probably Kingdom 2, right? But as we grow in grace, more and more of that is moving into Kingdom 2. And so our life does become, right, supported by grace. And we see the world as a friendly place to be. Knowledge without faith is dead and unrewarding. So Kingdom 1 into 2, we're getting the knowledge. But Kingdom 3 is moving from that knowledge to faith. However, faith without knowledge is blind and unproductive. And we all know of people who have faith, but they don't. It's a subtle thing. If we haven't learned how to make decisions, how to initiate and make decisions for ourselves, and we get into this kind of teaching, it's subtle, but we might have this faith with no desire to make any decisions. You know people like that who just like, whatever God wants. Right? Or I open up to the universe. No decision. It sounds like a decision, and it may be, there may be clarity behind it, but what we want to be careful of is that faith that we are exercising without having learned the skill and developed the consciousness of choice. We're not a victim of the universe. We're not a victim of God, not even a victim of God's good, not even a victim of the angels, the saints, the totem animal, not a victim of your spirit guides, your psychics, your stars, not a victim of anything outside of that divine self within you. And to choose to follow that divine self, that's quite a choice. But then, right now, my intention for this week is to be obedient to that divine guidance within. I'm a loud, noisy, complaining kind of obedient at the moment. I don't want to go. All right, I'll let it go. So, so faith without knowledge is blind and unproductive. An example of this is the blind trust of a young child, right? They have no knowledge of the world. They're completely dependent upon the protection of the parents. But true faith is that which has been built on a foundation of knowledge. And so it is realizing I'm not a victim, I have a choice, and out of all the suggestions going on within and around me, there's also that still small voice that is showing me my way of my greatest good. And I can follow it, and I don't have to follow it. And that's an important thing to realize. Yes, we can follow it, and our life becomes easier and gracefully supported, and we can not follow it and struggle a little bit more and suffer a little bit more until we go, okay, I'll follow it. So what, those of you who are around me this past week and so, you're seeing me, yes, I'm following, but and you're now the still small voice going, come to the edge, let it go. And I'm like, okay. And one of my ways of letting things go is say, look, do whatever you want with it, but don't tell me. And I leave the room. That seems to work. So those voices are there, but as we walk by faith, choosing to follow our guidance, those voices stop being believed in. Those voices stop being trustworthy to us. And again, as I said in our first talk on this, every one of those other voices are all based on fear. Every one of them. Don't do this because this. So be careful. Be careful, right? The world telling us to be careful. Divine guidance says, follow me. It's got nothing about, divine guidance doesn't say, follow me, but be careful. Divine guidance says, follow me now. You all saw, is it Raiders of the Lost Ark? The very end scene, my favorite scene. I really don't need to watch the whole rest of the movie. Just let me watch the last 10 minutes. When he's there with these 3 little pieces of scripture. And at one point, he's like standing there, and he's got is the scripture that says something like, get down on your knees and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, get down on my knees. What does this mean? Whatever. Get down on my knees. He gets down on his knees, and the sword comes through, and it would have whacked his head off if he hadn't gotten down on his knees. Right? That's divine guidance. Get down on your knees means now get down on your knees. And so when we follow that guidance, we've got to have that knowledge experience of choosing to follow it and not follow it. Great to do in traffic. Great practice. Which way should I go home? Follow it and don't follow it. That way you get to see, I should have followed it. You need to build the faith, right? That's what I did. Why not? It works. And we begin to live more and more in grace, filled with wonder and with awe, with wonderful surprises. Life gets easier and easier. All the same possible things that could happen in your life might happen, probably do happen, but you're different. You're different. You're clear about what is yours to do. You worry less or not at all. You feel less guilty because you're following divine guidance. Well, God told me so. You're following that divine guidance. Guilt, shame, worry, all from the world, all from fear. Divine guidance, crystal clear. Does that make sense? That makes sense. Well, we got it here. I hope you got it out there. Let's move forward. Reverend Rich,
Perfect sense.
give us some music.
I'm held in the hands of grace, forever safe in the arms of love. Like a child receives protection in a mother's warm embrace, and I'm held in the hands of grace. You are held in the hands of grace, forever safe in the arms of love. Like a child receives protection in a mother's warm embrace, you are held in the hands of grace. We are held in the hands arms of love. Like a child who sees protection in a mother's warm embrace, we are held in that grace. We are held in that grace.
And so now is our time of wrapping things up. As we give, we receive. We do not give because God needs the gift, but because the giving increases, broadens, and deepens the life of the giver. What you focus on expands. Nor shall we give from the standpoint of duty. The universe refuses to bargain with us. It already has given us everything it has. But it also has provided that the gift of life can be received in its fullness only as it flows through us to the fullness of others. So this is the time of giving. And for those of us who are physically here at the Masonic Temple, we're passing around the plate, which is the symbol and reality of giving. And for those of you at home, where's that place of giving within you? What do you have to give? Both to CSL Princeton, and you can donate to CSL Princeton on our website, cslprinceton.org. And also donate to yourself and to the world by choosing what to focus on.
And so this word is being spoken for each one. One infinite mind, the mind of God that knows all. That mind of God creating each one now, desires each one to participate in co-creating their experience of all the good that this life is. All of its life, love, light, power, peace, beauty, harmony, and joy can take specific form. And each one has been given the gift to choose that expression, that form. And so each one is now choosing to become a skillful decider and initiator in creating their lives, and to trust in that loving presence to do all the providing. This is the truth. Each one is growing in knowledge of that truth and in faith that this truth can be depended upon, and it is dependable. I am grateful that this is so. I release this word to the law. It's done, and so it is. And that's the way it is.
Guide my feet while on this race. Guide my feet while on this race. Guide my feet while I run this race, 'cause I don't want to run
try while I run this race. I'm a child while I run this race. I'm a child while I run this race. 'Cause I don't want to run this race again. 'Cause I don't want to run this race in vain.
And so it is. So there it is, folks. I hope you come again next week, and signing off. Bye-bye.